Here now, Republican Congressman Mike Turner of Ohio, ranking member on the House Armed Services Subcommittee on Strategic Forces. Good evening. Good to see you, sir.
Good evening, Jackie.
Let's talk about some of the messaging today coming from Jake Sullivan, an additional soundbite that I thought was great. He talked about the administration's approach. He called it clear-eyed. He's clear-eyed. He said that they planned for all the contingencies. And I'm sorry, if you're an outsider and you're watching this, it just doesn't look that way.
Right. So Jake Sullivan was being completely disingenuous, and so has the White House. They had no plan whatsoever. This was, was supposed to be a withdrawal. It turned into a surrender, and now it's an evacuation. The Armed Services Committee had been asking the Biden administration repeatedly to give us an understanding of what their plans were or their planning had been. In this instance, it clearly shows they had no plans. But they're also being disingenuous about what the Afghan national military was doing. The U.S. and NATO commands were integrated into the command of the Afghan national military. They didn't coordinate at all with them whatsoever. As you know, Biden said, we're not going to run for the exits. And then that's exactly what they did, running actually out of the middle of the night from Bagram Air Force Base without any warning to the Afghan national military. So there was no coordination, no planning, no help in passing the baton. This travesty was avoidable. And clearly, this falls absolutely on the Biden administration for no planning and for the travesty that's going to happen to the Afghan people.
The irony in Biden's remarks yesterday was that he said the buck stops with me, but then he started his speech by talking about what he was handed, what he inherited from the Trump administration when it came to this situation. And so many people today, as we're thinking about this and really mulling it over, are pointing out the fact that he reversed so many Trump policies. The Keystone Pipeline, he went back on the Iran nuclear deal, he went back on the climate accord, the Paris Climate Accord. And so on this, he had a choice, right? He's a leader. He has a choice. So he chose, as you're saying, as you're suggesting, to follow through in this way. And now he's trying to say, well, this was another inherited crisis.
Well, but, this is not how the Trump administration was doing it. They were negotiating with the Taliban, and as Jakeem was just saying, they would have used the full force of the U.S. military to enforce any agreement with the Taliban. In this, he just ran. Biden, packed up the tent and took off, and leaving the Afghan government, the Afghan national military, the Afghan people, and even Americans without any ability to plan or contingency. This was avoidable. I tell you what, there's probably 1,000 different ways you could have planned this. There's only one that you could have done it completely unplanned, and the guaranteed result would be exactly what has happened.
And how do you feel, or what's your reaction to the fact that he is, being briefed? He's at Camp David. He was there all weekend. He came yesterday for the remarks, and then he went straight back. I mean, to me, you see pictures of the empty Situation Room, and you think to yourself, where is the commander-in-chief?
Right. Well, he clearly doesn't care. And what he doesn't care about was what the most important mission that we had in Afghanistan, and that was to ensure that it was not going to be available for terrorists to have a foothold, to be able to target the West and the United States, which is why we went there. He said, well, we're going to do counterterrorism over the horizon. No, we're not. He doesn't have an over the horizon. He has nowhere to operate from. He has no ability to secure the United States from the terrorist threat that's going to evolve in this country, and he will have absolutely walked away from the most essential mission that we have.
As we are heading into the 20th anniversary of 9/11 and now exiting the region by August 31st, if that still continues to be the plan, you have to ask yourself, have we left ourselves vulnerable in the region? Are we going to see a destabilization? Are we going to see potential terror threat again?
Absolutely. Well, he proudly said that he wanted us to leave in 2009 when Obama had decided to do a surge instead. But the intelligence reports, the public intelligence reports throughout all of this period, and even most recent, are that there is a terrorist threat there, presence of al-Qaeda, presence of ISIS. All of those represent a clear threat to the United States and to our allies in the West, and they're going to grow in threat, and we're not going to have an ability to address them.
Congressman, real quick while I have you, former Obama administration official, Obama's director of global engagement, in an op-ed basically said that the NSA director, Jake Sullivan, who we've been talking about today, that he should resign, that he has failed in all aspects of his position. Your thoughts?
Well, I think that President Biden needs to shake up his team, but the problem is that the shakeup would be because of his own decision making. It's clear from his statement yesterday that he intended this result. He doesn't seem surprised. He has no regret. It's not as if he was ill-advised. The country was ill-served by our president.
It's like he's setting people up for failure. Congressman, thank you so much. Good to see you tonight.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.